All right, next, we're going to talk about the changes we're making to the directed health measures. We are announcing today, well, let me take a step back. You know, we put in these restrictions back in March to be able to slow the spread of virus here in Nebraska, and it's been very successful. We've been taking a step-by-step approach to loosen the restrictions to allow people to go back to a more normal life while still making sure that we're taking steps to slow the spread of the virus here. We started loosening restrictions May 4th. We made a variety of steps in May. June 1st, we announced some restrictions being loosened, and we're announcing more restrictions being loosened today. So May 4th was really kind of going into phase 1. June 1st is going into phase 2. Today we're announcing phase 3. So phase 3 will start with all these 89 counties that are still in phase 2 right now. We're going to be going to phase 3, and then the Central District Public Health in Dakota County, those that are in phase 1 right now, they will be moving to phase 2 on June 22nd. So again, most of the state is taking another step forward into phase 3. Our 200 public health districts are taking a step forward going into phase 2. So then that's Hall, Merrick, Hamilton, and Dakota County will be in phase 2. So we have some of those changes are going to be statewide. So for example, statewide changes will include sports, fan attendance for youth and school games changes to the same limit as gatherings on June 22nd. So we have a category for gatherings. Those sports venues or those sports gatherings will be included in that. It'll no longer, for example, be limited to just household members. I know this is one of the things that a lot of people contacted our office about. For example, grandparents being able to go to a Little League baseball game. Starting on June 22nd, that will open up and it'll just be covered under the gatherings section of our directed health measures. Another item that will be pulled out of the directed health measures completely will be elective surgeries. Elective surgeries, you may recall we originally had the 30-30-30 rule, 30% hospital beds, 30% ICU ventilators, that sort of thing, and then 2 weeks worth of PPE. We took that down to 15%. Now we're taking those restrictions off entirely and expecting hospitals to manage it to make sure that they can serve their customers and still be able to accommodate coronavirus patients as needed. And as you can see from what we talked about earlier with regard to our hospital capacity, we've got lots of capacity. All right, starting June 22nd, the following guidelines apply to all counties except for those 4 that I mentioned before. The ones that are still in green there, the Hall, Hamilton, Merrick, and Dakota will still be on phase 2. But for everybody else, starting June 22nd, the following guidelines will be in place. So bars and restaurants, bottle clubs, gentlemen's clubs, and so forth will remain open for dine-in. Patrons will be required to be seated at tables while on premises unless they're getting up to place an order, use the restroom, or one of the new things in this phase is we're going to allow games. So arcade games, pool, darts, you got it, that kind of stuff will be allowed now under the DHM. However, you still have to have a seat in the dining room. You still have to have a seat to go to be able to play those games. Occupancy will be 100% of rated occupancy. However, they will still have to have a maximum of 8 people at a table. That's up from 6. Food may be consumed at the bar. That's a new change. Self-serve buffets and salad bars are still going to be prohibited. Staff will still have to provide the, serve the food directly to all individuals. And then the rest will, the 6-foot distance and so forth will be in the guidance. So that's what's going to be with regard to bars and restaurants. Again, loosening those restrictions, another step. But still having guidance and restrictions with regard to how that's being done, but 100% capacity there. With regard to child care facilities, capacity will be limited to the following numbers. Infants to 3 years old, 15 children per room. 3-year-olds to 3-year-olds will be 20 children per room. 4 to 5-year-olds will be 24 children per room. And Felicia, I believe that's just the licensing guidelines that is already established in HHS, is that right? That is correct. Felicia's nodding her head, yes. And then school-age children, K through 12, 30 children per space will be the child care guidelines. That is different from the typical licensing that we have, but that'll be what child care will be able to go to starting June 22nd. All other state provisions, statutes, regulations, including child to staff ratios, will still apply just like regular regulations. Gatherings. All right, indoor gatherings are now going up to 50% of rated occupancy. It was at 25, now it'll be going to 50%, up to a maximum of 10,000 people. Remember, it had been at 3,000 before, now it's going up to 10,000. Outdoor gatherings will be limited to 75% of rated occupancy. Those were at 50%, now they're going up to 75, again, not to exceed 10,000. Indoor and outdoor arenas include indoor-outdoor auctions, arenas, stadiums, tracks, fairgrounds, festivals, zoos, auditoriums, large event conference rooms, meeting halls, indoor theaters, libraries, swimming pools, or any other confined indoor or outdoor space. However, groups will still be no larger than 8 individuals, 6 feet separation between groups of individual or groups. Still prohibited will be parades, carnivals, midways, dances, street dances, beer gardens, and so forth. Throughout Phase 3, those will still remain. However, parades where the patrons remain in their vehicles and the public does not line up along the streets will continue to be allowed. That'll still be okay. Dancing at events is permissible if the individuals remain at their tables and seats and keep social distancing between groups. So if you're at the concert, you can get up and dance in your seat, but you can't go anywhere to go do it. Dance recitals will be permitted, but again, must be following the other gathering requirements. Plans for reopening, again, just like we did in the past, if you're going to reopen or you're going to expand your capacity, you're going to have to submit that plan to your local public health department if it's going to exceed 500 people, or in Douglas County, where you've got more than 500,000 people, it'll be 1,000 people. So if you are going to expand your capacity, if you've already submitted a plan and you're going to expand your capacity, you have to resubmit a plan for the expanded capacity to your local public health department and get that approved. Okay, so that's still part of what we have to do here as part of this. Gyms, fitness centers, health clubs, health spas will be limited to 75% of their occupancy rating. But again, 6 feet distance between machines, sanitizing everything, all that still applies. Salons, barbershops, massage therapy services, tattoo parlors, body art, limited to 75% of the rated occupancy. Again, both workers and patrons will have to wear a mask while they are being served, with the exception of when there's work on their face being done. You may recall we said there was an exception for estheticians. This is really being expanded. So for example, your barber can give you a shave now, but your mask can only be down while you're getting that work on your face done. When you're done with that, you have to put the mask back on. Okay, so weddings, funerals, and so forth, those venues, maximum of 8 individuals in a party. Again, that's up from 6 where it was before. Self-serve buffets and salad bars are still prohibited. Venue staff must still serve. Limited dances and social events requiring guests to gather outside their respective tables will be in the guidance. And the distinction we're making here is that if you go to a wedding, generally there's a guest list. You know who people are. That's different from like a street dance where anybody can show up and you may have mixing of large groups of people that are not easily traceable afterwards. So at a wedding, we expect that contact tracers, should there be somebody who tests positive, will be able to get a guest list and do contact tracing more easily than at a street dance. That's why we're allowing dancing at a wedding venue versus a street dance where we're not. Starting June 22nd, let's see, all the counties that I said before, Hall, Merrick, Hamilton, and Dakota will be going into Phase 2. So those Phase 2 requirements will be similar to what it was before for everybody else. Now that's our Phase 3, again, that we're announcing today starting June 22nd. We are also announcing today's Phase 4. Now Phase 4 looks very similar to Phase 3, with the exception is that what I told you is all in the directed health measure, those DHMs. That means it's a misdemeanor violation to violate those. What we'll be doing in Phase 4 is, by and large, we're going to be taking all those things and moving them from the DHM into guidance in Phase 4. And the one exception to that will be gatherings. Gatherings for indoors will be limited to 75% of rated occupancy. Outdoor gatherings will go to 100% of rated occupancy. So again, in Phase 3, they're at 50 and 75. In Phase 4, for those gatherings, they'll go to 75 and 100%. Let's see. Gatherings include, but are not limited to, again, indoor-outdoor arenas, indoor-outdoor auctions, stadiums, tracks, fairgrounds, festivals, zoos, auditoriums, large event conference rooms, meetings, halls, indoor theaters, libraries, swimming pools, and other confined indoor and outdoor spaces. Again, we're going to be asking for 6 foot of separation and so forth. And your plans will still have to be submitted. If you're going to expand capacity in Phase 4, your plans will still need to be submitted to your local public health department. And with regard to the timing of Phase 4, we don't know that yet. So we're going to roll out Phase 3 here, June 22nd. We're going to continue to monitor our hospital system, and we will make a determination at a later date when we will roll out phase 4. So what we hope is that we continue to remain stable as we go through the end of June and into July, and that sometime in July we can make an announcement when phase 4 would be able to start. So, but what we are doing is giving people the opportunity to look out ahead about what phase 3 is going to be June 22nd, and what a potential phase 4, well, phase 4 is going to look like at some point in the future, so you can start doing your planning. All right. Now, there's a couple other things we're going to talk about here. Long-term care facilities and schools. We're going to start with long-term care facilities. Dr. Ashraf, who is with UNMC, who actually, you were here from the beginning for the ICAP program, right, Doctor? So you've been here 4.5 years or so? Yes. Around that? 4 years. Huh? 4 years. Oh, 4 years he's been here. So the ICAP program, or the Infection Control Assessment and Promotion Program, is a program that was funded from a CDC grant that came to the state of Nebraska, that we use UNMC to be able to help work with our long-term care facilities over the course of the last 4 years to be able to help them with infection control. I believe that's one of the reasons why we've been successful here in Nebraska in working with those facilities and trying to limit some of the infections here in our state. So thank you very much, Dr. Ashraf, for all your work there. Part of what we're announcing today also is some of the phasing for those long-term care facilities to be able to get to the point, for example, where they could start allowing visitors for those residents. I've got Felicia Quintana Zinn, who's going to come up and talk to us. She's with our Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. She is really our point person. She's done a fantastic job here at the state of Nebraska, working together with all the local public health departments, UNMC, all of our experts, working with my office. She's just done a wonderful, wonderful job in pulling all this together and keeping us all coordinated, not only on these guidance and DHMs, but all aspects of what we're doing around testing and contact tracing and quarantine, all of these plans we do for at-risk communities, all of that, Felicia has really been an integral part of. So Felicia, will you come up and walk us through what's going on with regard to the phasing for long-term care facilities?